Hi, welcome to week 2 of the residential real estate appraisal class. I was checking in on the closure of completion of week 1. I couldn't help but notice that some of you have not logged in for some time. In addition, the discussion boards were almost untouched. It is imperative that you go in, log on, go into the discussion boards, and pick a team leader. Well, enough of the housekeeping. Let's get into week 2 of the class. This week we begin in Chapter 4 by learning about various math procedures which are necessary to the appraisal business. Some of this is old news if you've taken class Real Estate 114. However, I want you to pay particular attention to the direct capitalization formula which begins on page 31. Direct capitalization is a technique used to convert income, the rent gathered by a particular property, into value. The concept can be a little bit tricky, but I want you to think about a couple of things. Let's say a property is worth $850,000 and it makes $50,000 per year in rent. That is after all expenses, so that it is a true net to the owner. Wouldn't it make sense that if it were an investment property, that if the property made $100,000, that is twice the amount, again, true net to the owner after all expenses, that it would be worth twice that amount, or $1.7 million. Well, it is true. And that is because to an investor, the value, or what the investor will pay for the property, is directly related to how much money the property generates. You will see in some of the later chapters, when we go into more detail about the income approach to estimate value, that it is truly the most important indicator of value to an investor. Now in Chapter 5, we learn about data collection in the appraisal process. We begin to explore the URAR, Uniform Residential Appraisal Report, for single-family homes. We learn how to go about completing some of the beginning sections of the report, such as the neighborhood data. Chapter 5 also explores the site data and the building data on the subject properties that we are appraising. As well, it examines the comparable sales we're using to compare our property with recent similar sales in the marketplace. Chapter 6 deals specifically with site valuation. This is an important part of the appraisal process since we need to understand some very important things about the site itself, independent of the improvements, that is, the buildings, the flat work, possibly pools, the yards, and maybe even landscaping. Beginning on page 183, the book launches into a discussion about highest and best use of the property. This analysis needs to be done on each and every appraisal we do. We must determine for what the property is best fit. We usually begin by determining the zoning of the property. The city or county regulations will usually govern what can be done with the property. For example, what the zoning is. That is, whether it is zoned for a single-family residence, whether you can put multiple residential units, such as a duplex, triplex, or even more units. Other kinds of uses are commercial and industrial uses. It is our job to find out what the allowable uses are for the property and which of these allowable uses will be the most productive use for the property. There are 4 tests to the highest and best use analysis. They are: 1. What is legally permissible? What does the zoning allow? Can you put a residence there? Can you put a liquor store there? Can you build a high-rise building there? Yes. What is legally permissible? 2nd, what is physically possible? Say it is zoned for a duplex with a minimum of 6,000 square feet. If our property is 6,500 square feet, then the highest and best use would most likely be a duplex. However, if the property was only 5,000 square feet, it may be that the zoning would only allow for 1 unit, since the minimum size for the duplex was 6,000 square feet. It is our job to find that out. That is, what use can physically fit on the property for whatever the allowable use is or can be. This is going to dramatically affect the value of the property. The 3rd test of the highest and best use is that it must be economically feasible. Say, for example, a property is zoned for residential development with lot sizes of a minimum of 5,000 square feet. The subject property we are appraising is 6,000 square feet. So it would appear that the single-family residence use would be most appropriate. However, in examining the property, we find that it is an extreme hillside property where so much grading or soil stabilization would have to occur that it is not even worth building. By the time you buy the land, do the necessary grading and soil stabilization, and then build the home, you couldn't even come close to selling it for the money you have put into it. So we might determine that it's best left unbuilt, and maybe its best use is for one of the neighbors to buy it to enlarge their backyard. The fourth test of the highest and best use is that it is the most maximally productive use. When you are analyzing various uses of the property, we may find that 2 or more uses are suitable for the property. We would determine the highest and best use by analyzing which of the uses are the most productive, the most cost-effective to get the best return for the investment. Along with the highest and best use analysis, we discover the concept of legal conforming and non-conforming uses of a parcel of land. We may find a duplex in a neighborhood where the zoning on the property is actually for a single-family residence. The use could be illegal, and the city or county may require you to demolish one unit or to make the property back into a single-family residence. However, it may be that the property was built as a duplex in 1930. We might find that the zoning ordinance had not even been written or applied to the properties at that time. So, it may be that the city or county may allow the use even though it doesn't conform to the zoning. Or it may be that the zoning was changed since it was built. In any case, this would most likely be a legal, non-conforming use if the city or county would still allow it to exist as it does. Well, this has been a good exercise in analyzing a site. We will be learning soon that there are 3 approaches to estimate value: the cost approach, the sales comparison approach, and the income approach. This is the beginning of the cost approach, since the cost approach is really valuing the site and then adding the improvement or building value to the site. The site value plus the improvement value is equal to the value of the property. We'll dive into that at a later time. For now, get busy on those discussion boards, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye now, and good luck with your reading and quizzes.